Princess Zayara the Radiant, first heiress to the Zaraketh Dominion, grand manipulator of the Flux, and potential overlord of the known galaxy, sat in her gilded stateroom aboard her flagship, the Eminent Majesty, positively seething. For the first time in her life, she had encountered something she didn't fully understand. Humans. More specifically, one human. Captain Jack Corvin, self-described freelance problem solver, was lounging in a chair opposite her throne-like command seat, boots casually resting on a priceless Kavarnian marble table. He was sipping something humans called coffee, and Zayara wasn't sure if she hated the smell or the smug grin on his face more. "I must admit, Your Radiance," he said, deliberately chewing the honorific with just enough mockery to make her antennae twitch. "I was expecting something a bit more intimidating from the galaxy's most feared imperial heiress. You're all sparkles and attitude." Her silver irises glimmered dangerously. "You will address me properly, Deathworlder." "Sure thing, Your Galactic Sparkliness. I bow to no one." Zayara's delicate, violet skin darkened with frustration. "I summoned you because your species is infamous for its resourcefulness and unparalleled brutality. My advisors claim that humans are the ultimate weapon forged by the inferno of your hellish homeworld. I need warriors. You're the first step, and I see my advisors left out the part about your smart mouth." Zayara shot an evil glare towards her trusted advisors that could have peeled the skin right off them. Jack smirked, swirling his coffee. "And here I thought I was special. Turns out I'm just part of your recruitment drive." "Charming." "You are special," Zayara snapped, leaning forward. "You survived a vacuum spike mine, a Kliger siege, and something called, what was it? A corporate team-building retreat." Jack winced. "Don't remind me. The PowerPoint presentations were worse than the Kligers." Zayara's slender fingers tapped the table. "Imagine it, Corvin. An army of humans fighting for the Zaraketh cause. Together we could crush my rivals, dominate the galaxy, and you could name your price." Jack raised an eyebrow. "What makes you think humans would sign up for that?" "They would be well compensated, of course," she said as if speaking to a particularly slow child. "Your kind is motivated by material gain, yes?" Jack chuckled, shaking his head. "Oh, we're motivated, all right. Just not in the way you think. Let me guess. You saw the human resume. Wars, revolutions, surviving Deathworld nonsense, and thought, wow, what a handy set of murder monkeys." Zayara tilted her head. "Is that incorrect?" "Mostly. We're not just about fighting, Princess. We're about survival, sure. But also, I don't know, making life worth surviving. You want warriors for your shiny empire, but you've got no idea what you're actually dealing with." Zayara frowned. "Enlighten me then, Captain. What am I dealing with?" Jack leaned back, a mischievous gleam in his eye. "You think power's about conquest, right? About crushing your enemies and piling up shiny things. But humans, we're complicated. Sure, some of us like a good fight, but most of us, we're just trying to live a decent life. You ever had a picnic, Princess?" What?" Jack laughed. "Exactly. You're so busy trying to rule the universe, you've never taken a moment to enjoy it." Over the next few weeks, Zayara insisted on learning more about her prized Deathworlder. She observed as Jack casually befriended her terrified crew, taught them improvised card games, and once rewired the ship's failing gravity system using nothing but scrap metal and what he called spite. She couldn't reconcile his humor and practicality with his reputation. Wasn't he supposed to be a brutal killer? Instead, he seemed more interested in fixing broken machinery and teaching her alien chefs how to make pizza. One evening, as they stood on the observation deck, Jack pointed out the sprawling starfield. "You see that? That's what humans fight for. Not for empires or dominion, but for moments like this, for each other, for home." Zayara stared at him, something unfamiliar stirring in her. "You make it sound so simple." "It is," Jack said, his voice softer than she'd ever heard. "And that's the point." Their bond deepened during a crisis. A Zaraketh rival ambushed the Eminent Majesty in a remote system, forcing Jack and Zayara to fight side by side. Jack's ingenuity and bravery saved the day, not through violence, but by outsmarting their attackers with a daring maneuver. Afterward, as they sat in the battered control room, Zayara looked at Jack differently. "You could have let them destroy us. Why risk yourself for me?" Jack shrugged. "Guess I'm just a sucker for stubborn, sparkly royalty." Her laughter was genuine this time. "You're infuriating. And you're not so bad once you stop talking about galactic domination every 5 seconds." When Zayara finally had the chance to unleash her human army, she hesitated. Jack's words echoed in her mind. What's the point of ruling everything if you lose yourself in the process? She ordered a retreat. Later, in private, she turned to Jack. "You've changed me, Corvin. I don't know what to do with that." Jack grinned. "Start with a picnic." Their story didn't end with galactic conquest. Instead, it was the beginning of something far more extraordinary. A partnership built on shared moments, mutual respect, and, much to Zayara's surprise, love. For Jack Corvin, the galaxy's most unpredictable Deathworlder, had once again proven humanity's greatest strength, the power to connect. As they searched the galaxy for a perfect planet to start their new life together, they found it. The planet they chose was nothing short of paradise. It was called Soluna 4 by the Galactic Registry, but Jack Corvin simply called it home. Verdant forests stretched into endless horizons, mountains kissed the clouds, and rivers wove crystalline veins through the landscape. Jack thought it was perfect, the kind of place you'd want to raise kids. Zayara, too, found it beautiful, though she couldn't shake the nagging thought that its remoteness and lush resources would make it an ideal staging ground for other purposes. But for now, she kept those thoughts to herself. Their twin children, Zephyr and Leora, were marvels. With Zayara's shimmering violet skin and Jack's piercing hazel eyes, they were a perfect fusion of Zarakith elegance and human vitality. By the time they were 5, it was clear they had inherited more than just looks. Zephyr could calculate astrophysics equations before breakfast and dismantle any mechanical gadget Jack left lying around. Leora, on the other hand, displayed uncanny physical reflexes and a sharp wit that rivaled her father's. Jack loved them fiercely, dedicating his days to teaching them the joys of exploration, storytelling, and simple pleasures like climbing trees and swimming in the river. Zayara, though equally proud, began to see something more. Their hybrid children were stronger, smarter, and more adaptable than either humans or Zarakith. In her eyes, they weren't just special, they were superior. It started small. A passing comment here, a wistful observation there. "They're incredible, aren't they?" she mused one evening, as she and Jack watched the twins play by the firelight. "They sure are," Jack said, smiling warmly. "You know what Zephyr said earlier? He wants to build his own telescope. I didn't even mention it. He just decided to figure it out himself." Zayara nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. "Imagine what they could accomplish, Jack. With the right guidance, they could be leaders. Warriors. The galaxy would have no choice but to respect them." Jack's smile faded. He had heard that tone before. "Leaders, sure. Warriors? Not so much. They're kids, Zayara. Let them be kids." Her silver irises flicked toward him, glimmering in the firelight. "You underestimate their potential. They're more than just children. They're the future. Our legacy." Old ideals resurface. The cracks in their idyllic life widened when news of the warlord reached them. A Zarakith exile turned tyrant named Thranix the Devourer was cutting a bloody swath through the galactic stage. His fleet had already dismantled 3 rival empires, and whispers of his ambition to conquer the entire galactic core reached even the quiet serenity of Soluna 4. Zayara's unease grew with every report. "They'll come here eventually," she told Jack one evening, pacing their modest home. "If not Thranix, then someone like him. We can't just hide." Jack was stirring a pot of stew, his expression calm. "We're not hiding. We're living. There's a difference." "But what if they find us? What if they take the children?" Her voice cracked slightly, betraying her tightly held composure. "I can't lose them, Jack. I won't." Jack set the spoon down and turned to face her. "We can protect them without turning them into soldiers." Her jaw tightened. "It's not just about protection. They have the potential to be something greater than either of us. You can't deny that." Jack sighed. "I'm not denying it. I just don't think a greater means putting a sword in their hands and pointing them at the galaxy. You think you're protecting them, but you're just repeating the cycle you left behind. Their arguments became more frequent, though never loud. Jack's sarcasm sharpened in proportion to Zayara's stubborn resolve. One morning, Zephyr found his mother sketching out what looked suspiciously like military tactics on a holographic display. "What's that, Mom?" he asked innocently. Zayara hesitated, then smiled. "Just a game, my little star. Would you like to learn?" Jack walked in just as she handed Zephyr the stylus. "What's going on here?" His tone was light, but his eyes were anything but. "Strategic thinking exercises," Zayara said smoothly. "It's good for his cognitive development." Jack knelt beside Zephyr and pointed at the display. "What's this, bud?" Zephyr beamed. "Mom says it's how you figure out the best way to win a battle. Isn't that cool, Dad?" Jack ruffled his son's hair and forced a smile. "Super cool. Why don't you and your sister go see if the river frogs are out? I'll join you in a bit." As soon as the kids were out of earshot, Jack turned back to Zayara, his voice low and sharp. "What the hell, Zay?" "They need to be prepared," she snapped, her royal poise momentarily slipping. "Do you think Thranix's forces will care if they're just children? They need to know how to defend themselves." "They're not defending themselves. You're turning them into, what, warriors? Conquerors? That's not who they are." "It's who they could be," she shot back. "And you're too blinded by your naive love of simplicity to see it." Jack's anger simmered, but he didn't lash out. Instead, he spoke with the kind of calm that Zayara had learned to fear. "Do you even hear yourself? You're trying to turn our kids into tools for a fight they didn't ask for. That's exactly what your empire did to you. Don't you remember how much you hated that?" Her expression faltered, but only for a moment. "This is different. I'm trying to protect them." "No," Jack said firmly. "You're trying to control them." The breaking point came when Lyora, ever the keen observer, confronted them both. "You're fighting about us," she said bluntly, her arms crossed as she stared down her parents. Zephyr stood behind her, wide-eyed but nodding in agreement. Jack and Zayara exchanged guilty looks. "We're not fighting, sweetie," Jack started. "Yes, you are," Lyora cut him off. "Mom wants us to be warriors, and Dad wants us to be, I don't know, explorers or something." Zayara knelt in front of her daughter, her expression soft. "Lyora, we just want what's best for you." "But what if we don't want either?" Lyora asked. "What if we just want to figure it out ourselves?" Jack suppressed a smirk. "That's my girl." The conversation shook Zayara more than she cared to admit. That night, as she and Jack sat together under the stars, she broke the silence. "They're extraordinary, Jack. I don't want to hold them back. And I don't want to push them into a life they didn't choose," he replied, his tone gentle. "They'll find their path, Zay. They're smart and capable. All we have to do is give them the space to decide." She looked at him, her silver eyes glinting with something between frustration and admiration. "You're infuriating," he grinned, "and you're still a little too sparkly for your own good." Despite herself, Zayara laughed. For now, the warlord could wait. Their family came first.